Hello everyone! Today I'm finally going to talk about a favorite romantic classic that's been on my to-review list for quite some time, 1942's Now Voyager. Now Voyager, directed by Irving Rapper and based on a book by Olive Higgins Prouty, stars Bette Davis as Charlotte Vale, an insecure woman who suffers a nervous breakdown brought on by the pressure of living under a domineering mother, played by Gladys Cooper, who considers her a disappointment to the family. After a cousin's intervention, Charlotte goes away for psychological treatment at a home run by kindly Dr. Jackwith, played by Claude Rains, who encourages Charlotte to be more confident, and somewhere along the way she also gets a makeover. But before sending her back home, Dr. Jackwith recommends she take a trip overseas as a way to test herself and see how she does among strangers. And so, for a little while at least, this becomes a boat movie. Charlotte's come a long way, but she's still uncomfortable as she embarks on her cruise. She tries to keep to herself, but she ends up paired with a traveling companion, Jerry Durrance, played by Paul Henreid, a friendly architect who is not put off by Charlotte's mysterious behavior. He's no stranger to misery himself. He's unhappily married to a woman who seems to have psychological problems of her own, and he has a troubled little girl named Tina. Reluctantly, Charlotte opens up to him, and soon they fall in love. But they have to part at the journey's end, and Charlotte returns home to her mother, who expects her to settle down with a respectable husband befitting their wealthy Boston heritage. And Charlotte does come close to getting married, but it doesn't feel right to marry when her heart belongs to another man, especially after Jerry and his daughter Tina come back into her life. There are a lot of things I love about this movie, and as is always the case when talking about a personal favorite, it's hard to know where to start. I guess I'll begin with the star. Bette Davis made a lot of great movies, but this is one of her best. Not only is it one of her physically transformative performances, as she goes from frumpy, nearsighted ugly duckling to beautiful, glamorous swan, but it's a sensitive role. In the beginning, Charlotte Vale has so many insecurities, and even in a fantastic new wardrobe, gowns by Ori Kelly, and hair and no more glasses, she looks as if she's pretending to be someone else, and afraid that at any moment someone might come along and see through her masquerade. This movie isn't about someone getting a makeover and poof, they're done, they're ready to take on the world. No, Charlotte's personal and psychological journey has stages, with ups and downs, steps forward, steps backward. Her struggles may not be everyone's struggles, but we can still sympathize, even empathize with her. After all, we all struggle with something. And we cheer her on as she overcomes those difficulties to become a poised woman who knows her mind and makes her own decisions with confidence. As for Davis's leading man, well, let's be honest. A huge draw for me in this movie is dreamy Paul Henreid, who I don't mention often enough on this channel. Turner Classic Movies aired this movie the other day as part of a celebration of what would have been Henreid's 111th birthday. You simply can't have a Paul Henreid marathon without including Now Voyager. There are some moments in this movie that make me feel positively goofy. He's just so, I don't know, pick your adjective. Charming, suave, adorable. He's very nice, too. Compassionate, friendly, genuine, and very much in love. It was on the heels of this performance that he landed a major supporting role in a little movie you might have heard of called Casablanca. The role of Victor Laszlo, resistance hero and husband of Ilsa Lund, is the role he will always be most known for, and that's great. But if I'm in the mood for a warm, fuzzy romance featuring Paul Henreid, I'm gonna opt for this one. Bette Davis and Paul Henreid incidentally became very good friends in real life, and later in his career, when he turned his focus more toward directing than acting, Henreid directed Davis in 1964's Dead Ringer, which I still haven't watched. Gotta do that. As if it isn't enough to have these two lovely people in the movie, there's also a splendid supporting cast that includes Gladys Cooper at her most acrimonious, Bonita Granville and Ilka Chase as Charlotte's well-meaning cousins, and the wonderful Mary Wicks as a nurse. Fun fact, Mary Wicks also played a nurse, albeit a more cantankerous one, in another movie with Bette Davis that came out that same year, The Man Who Came to Dinner. But hello, another of my favorites, Claude Rains, takes the prize for one of his most well-loved supporting performances. Maybe I'm biased, but I feel like Dr. Jackwith might be the most fun, most likable person in the movie. Plus, you get the unexpected amusement of seeing Rains sit on the floor and eat a hot dog, which always tickles me. Davis, Henreid, and Rains would all reunite on screen a few years later in 1946's Deception, where Davis and Henreid once again play a pair of lovers, this time plagued by Rains's particularly nasty antagonist. If you like seeing Rains play a villain and say insulting but kind of funny things, and have way too much fun doing it, you might enjoy that one. Dr. Jackwith and Charlotte develop a great rapport. It's no wonder some fans joke that if things don't work out with Jerry, there's always Jackwith. As the first person to break through her shell, he's in a unique position to bolster her up, but also to criticize her when she tries practicing his methods on someone else, Jerry's daughter Tina, who Charlotte herself is in a unique position to help, though it's questionable whether or not she should. The only thing I don't love about the movie is the fact that Jerry's married, even though it's pretty clear that he and his wife are estranged. I'm not okay with infidelity under any circumstances, plus I find movies that are just all about an affair pretty tedious, so if this was just a series of illicit encounters between Jerry and Charlotte, desperate to be together but terrified all the time of being found out, I wouldn't like it nearly as much. But it isn't that kind of torrid, forbidden love affair melodrama. It's much more personal than that. These are just two people who happen to meet each other at the wrong time, and Charlotte, who's lived her whole life unloved, unwanted, misunderstood, has to go through the pain of finding someone at last who does love her and want her and understand her, and having to say goodbye because they can't be together. And then unexpectedly, sometime later, they see each other again, and they have to say goodbye again. And then she runs into his daughter, another lonely, unwanted child like herself who she could love, and she can't help thinking of him and what might have been, and she has to decide whether she ought to keep her distance from Tina, or whether it would be right to step in and help her, and by doing so, become a part of her life. This mental-emotional crisis leads to the ending, which is this oddly satisfying, inconclusive resolution. Skip ahead to this point if you don't want to hear anything about the ending, although I'm not sure how much of the video will actually be left if you skip ahead here. These two people want to be together, but right now, they can't. Maybe someday down the road, circumstances will change and they can be together, but for right now, they need to be content with the way things are. They need to focus on what's good for Tina, and they need to not ruin things by making selfish decisions. This is Charlotte's final struggle, and Jerry's kind of resistant at first, but then he resigns himself, and he turns and he says,
"Shall we just have a cigarette on it?"
I can't not talk about the cigarette thing. Paul Henreid gets the credit for this bit of business that starts as a generous gesture and turns into something more intimate, where he lights 2 cigarettes at once and hands her one, and they gaze into each other's eyes while the smoke clouds around them. Yeah, it's one of those things that's only sexy if a very attractive man in an old black and white movie does it. It comes across as romantic here, but in real life, it would be awful. And then you get the famous last lines, which are capped with one final blast of Max Steiner's score, the love theme that plays so often it will get stuck in your head.
And will you be happy, Charlotte?
Oh, Jerry, don't let's ask for the moon. We have the stars.
So I guess those are all my thoughts and feelings on Now Voyager. I'm not sure how organized they were, but I think I've said before, favorite movie reviews are tricky. I hope you enjoyed the review though, and I'd be thrilled to hear if you're also a fan of this movie, so go ahead and share your thoughts below, and thanks for watching!